as parents, you worry about all kinds of things, and it starts from the beginning, where you worry about stuff like, oh, should cloth or disposable nappies? You know, and then after a bit you think you don't really care about the environment. And you think, well, I mean, the nappy might last 10,000 years, but I've probably only got another 40, so I don't care. Don't really care that much. And as you worry about which school to send them to and who their friends are, and if you're a mum, you worry about the fact that, you know, your boy doesn't talk to you about all his emotions and what's going on in his life and stuff like that. But the stuff that we really should worry about is stuff we really should worry about. And actually, I do think sometimes it is quite good to be scared of, or at least aware of, the right things. The number one killer of young people in this country is driving. Like, it's the single most dangerous thing that they could do. And if it was something else, like if it was mobile phones that were the single greatest threat to young people, we'd probably get quite concerned about them. Each year, there are 1,300 crashes involving young people where there's injury or death result. That's a crap load of crashes.
In the previous episode, we talked about some pretty frightening stats. 15 to 24-year-olds make up 15% of all licensed drivers, yet 36% of all fatal crashes involve a young driver. The most at-risk subset are teens aged 16 to 19. Female teen drivers are 7 times more likely to crash than female drivers in the safest age group, 55 to 59 years old. For male teen drivers, the stats are even worse. They're 10 times more likely to crash than 55 to 59-year-old male drivers. We talked about the science behind why young drivers are so at risk and showed you how you can train your teen to drive more like an adult. Coming up, we expand on those principles, plus introduce you to some ideas that will keep your teen driver healthy.
Hello?
Oh, sorry, love. I was just remembering the day your granddad took me out on my first driving lesson. Miss him?
Dad, he's only moved to Surfers. You can ring him after.
He told me not to call him again. Not until Christmas.
Can we please just get on with it?
Okay, right. Now, the thing you have to understand is that any monkey can learn how to drive a car.
Yeah, that's what Granddad said.
But becoming a safe driver takes maturity and years of experience.
We better get started then.
Puts on seatbelt. Sets optimal driving position. Adjusts rear view mirror.
What are you doing?
I'm talking you through your driving experience.
It's extremely annoying.
Well, it's an internationally recognised method of driver training. Now start the engine and take your first step into the exciting new world of motoring.
Why can't anything ever be simple in this family?
I blame your mother.
As a parent, the first thing you need to understand
I didn't say anything.
Well,
is that your teen's brain is not the same as your brain.
If you look at what's going on in teenagers' brains, and this is stuff that most people know now, you know, that whole prefrontal cortex stuff about the bit of your brain that's involved in kind of judgment and impulse control and consequential thinking and connecting the dots, all of that sort of higher order stuff, last bit of the brain to come fully online. You don't have a fully functioning adult brain until you're 25. And I think it's quite hard as an adult to kind of remember what it was actually like being a teenager, because they do literally kind of see the world quite differently, and they experience the world quite differently, and that's why they'll do those sort of mad things that we wouldn't do. Like, their sort of orientation to risk is quite different to as they think basically it will be fine. I remember being 15, I'd had my licence for I think about 3 weeks, having learnt to drive in my dad's P76 V8 Leyland, you know, the old column shift Leyland. We're out driving through town. One of my mates said, "Does it go quick?" I went, "Oh yeah, pretty quick." He went, "Does it do the ton?" I went, "I don't know, should we find out?" And about 10 minutes later, we were out on 7 Mile Road in Oamaru, doing 160 kilometres per hour in the car. And I remember thinking, oh, this is like really fast. Like, that is completely insane. Like, there was no way, even now, I'd feel really, really nervous about driving at 160 kilometres per hour on a closed track in a car with a roll cage and a helmet and a neck brace and stuff. But 3 weeks into my licence, I thought, does it do the ton? Let's find out, why wouldn't you? Teenagers play lots and lots of video games, and because of that, they've got quite good hand-eye coordination. In fact, there's even some evidence that trainee surgeons now pick up the skills much better and much faster because of all the monkeying about with things like this. Now, it's all very well to be good at playing video games, but here in the real world, it's quite a bit different. While teenagers do tend to pick up on the mechanics of tasks like driving a car faster than adults do, adults tend to edge them out in areas like hazard perception and calibration. That's judging distances and speed. We asked our resident driving instructor Harold to help us demonstrate this. All right, Harold, so we're going to put our teens and their parents through a bit of a test. Can you just explain what we're doing?
We'll be checking their stopping distance. Do they know how much distance they should keep behind another vehicle to have a safe distance to stop, and see if they can stop in time safely.
Who do you think's going to be better, teenagers or grown-ups?
I'd say the grown-ups. I'd like to think the grown-ups, but some of the teenagers are probably quite good, and depending on how much they've driven. Yeah.
All right, well, let's crack on.
First up, Julianne and Anya.
All right. That's good. Alright, we'll just put the car in park and put the handbrake on. So if you would have been driving behind the vehicle, what would have happened? Yeah, that's good. So did you stop as quickly as you could then?
Oh, no.
No? So as soon as you see them hit the brake, you really want to try and stop as quickly as you can.
While Anya's first run supported our premise, the other teens with considerably more driving experience did better, although they took longer to stop than their parents. It's also important to remember that this test was held under supervised conditions. The vast majority of accidents happen when teenagers are driving alone, or worse, with their friends.
Well done, that's good.
So they're not very good at that calibration stuff, and they're not good at knowing how fast they're going, how they should be going, because what they're trying to do is just stay in the middle of the road. Like, often I think we forget, because we've been driving for so long, that first feeling that you have when you're moving this huge piece of metal down the road is quite an overpowering thing, and the most important thing that you want to do is keep it in the middle of the road. So that doesn't leave you a lot of time to be sort of looking around at all these other things, because you're not sort of comfortable doing it, so it takes you a while to sort of get your head around the fact that, you know, judging speeds and all of that stuff. And, you know, we do it now with an adult's brain. They're doing it with a brain that's actually not very well equipped for anticipating risks and hazard and tracking things and all the rest of it.
Right. This is it. Now, before pulling out onto the open road, be sure to look for any potential hazards.
Hazards?
Oncoming traffic. Pedestrian!
Where? I can't see anyone.
Love, driving isn't just about what's happening on the road directly in front of you. You must be mindful of your total environment. Sort of like a ninja.
What on earth are you talking about? I don't see any pedestrian.
Really? I'm not sure how you missed him.
Dad, he's miles away.
Is he? Is he just? Quick quiz. Exactly how far away do you think he is? Oh, look, don't worry, love. Look, all these skills will become like second nature to you once you've been driving as long as I have. Now, we'll let this chap past and then we can move out onto the open road. Well, you're not giving up already, are you, love?
No, I'm going to get a snack. I figure we're in for the long haul here. Do you want anything?
No, I'm good. And there's the trouble with the young people right there. No patience.
when I look at my kids, I would love it to be 24. You know, so it's not my fault, man. The government says you can't drive till you're 24. Having said that, by the time they're 18, I just going to want them out. Here's a bike. Go and cycle away. Your mum and I are moving. We're going somewhere else. We're going to drive there. You're not going to keep up. You can't drive. See you later. It probably is far too young for some of them, and it's probably just right for some. I don't know. But again, that's where, as a parent, the thing that you have control over is just because the law says they can drive at 16 doesn't mean that you have to say they can drive at 16. And just because they're on a restricted, and it means they're able to drive by themselves if they want, that doesn't mean that you have to let them do it. You can set the bar yourself based on the skills that you see them demonstrate, and how good they are at sort of managing risks and spotting risks and all that kind of stuff. Like, you make those decisions. Don't leave that up to the system.
My dad.
I didn't drive.
Experience. I think my mum did about a week before she kind of vowed never to get in the car with me again.
Dad was good. He was patient.
Long story short, farm vehicles and the old mate's parents' cars that we weren't allowed to touch but took anyway.
Does it make a difference which parent does the teaching, mum or dad? I think that very much depends on mum or dad. I think what's best, it's best to be patient. And in hindsight, I actually think my father was an incredibly patient man in many ways, much more patient than I am as a parent. But it's that whole thing about, like, you know, if you want people to learn stuff, yelling at them and getting angry and raising your voice doesn't work. Like, if we walked into a classroom and teachers were talking to kids like that, we'd want that. You shouldn't be teaching, out you go. But mostly when you're a parent, a lot of your teaching you do is a very loud, angry voice. So I think that, you know, it depends very much on the kid and the parent and everybody's temperaments and relationship and stuff, but the person who's kind of the most patient and the one that the kid is most likely to listen to. I mean, I do think there's actually a role for driving instructors doing some of the teaching as well, because they spend a lot of time learning about coaching. So they're not just sort of teaching, you know, how to parallel park. You know, good driving instructors now are taught to actually coach in those skills and all of those sorts of things that you want your teenagers to develop. And sometimes it's easier for them to listen to a stranger saying that than you saying it. Like, if you say it, you're just going, oh, don't go on about crashing all the time. You know, don't go on about the brakes. I know the brakes are. I just think they're a bit gay. I don't use them all the time. Whereas, you know, you watch a driving instructor, oh, that's, yeah, okay, yep, yeah, okay, oh, thank you, yeah.
Professional rally driver Dale Price has over 30 years' experience. As he drove me around the course between 140 and 160 kilometres an hour, his eyes were focused on the road several hundred metres ahead. However, research shows that the average teen driver only looks at the road immediately in front of them. So it's vital you spend additional time with them driving, not only to monitor their hazard perception, but also to see how they cope in a variety of different driving conditions.
The high-risk situations for them, it's all this stuff.
Driving is a risky business. Here are 5 big hazards your teen driver will encounter and need to overcome. First, distractions.
And distractions can be anything. It can be the young lady walking down the road as they're driving along, or the radio, or whatever it is. You know, they're easily distracted, and once they do get distracted, things don't go so well.
Studies have shown that if teenagers usually get less than 8 hours sleep a night, they're 30% more likely to be involved in a crash than teens who usually sleep for 8 hours or more.
In the life of a teenager, them going without sleep for that amount of time, it's not entirely out of their kind of range of experiences. And I think we often underplay the harm or the sort of the lack of attention that comes from the fatigue stuff. Bad weather. You know, when do you mostly teach them to drive? It's mostly on a sunny day, you know, a Sunday afternoon, or it's at the weekend, or stuff like that. And that's all the times that I went out driving with my dad. It was the middle of the day, it was the weekend, and it was a nice day. And also there was no cricket on or major sporting events. And off we went. nighttime. And I mean, it's obvious, isn't it? But it's like, it's worth thinking about the fact that when your kids are wanting to go out and drive, these are the situations where you need to kind of have your hazard awareness up, because they won't. High-speed roads, like a lot of kids learn to drive in town, but don't get much experience on the open road, or even driving on the motorway. They might go for a little bit, but you know, a 15-minute blat down the motorway or a 15-minute blat along the open road with you there, that's different to like an hour's drive or an hour and a half drive with you sitting beside them. I do think the idea of having some kind of written contract with your little person, your young person, as they're starting to drive, is quite a good idea. In terms of like just being clear about the conditions and responsibilities and all of that stuff. The process of sitting down and writing that stuff out just kind of formalises the whole thing and makes them think about it. Like, it's not just, you know, borrowing your bike and off you go. This is actually something quite serious that we have to take seriously. This is an ingenious idea, and it was actually, it was our executive producer's friends did this. They said to their children, here's the deal. If you want to take the family car out, before you can do that, you have to have in a bank account an amount of cash to cover the excess in the event of any damages. So it's like, if you have to save up $1,000 of your money and put that in the bank, first off, it buys you some time, because it will take them some time to save that money up. And second off, it then becomes a lot more real for them, because they've got money on the line. Like, if they're not paying attention, they dint the car and it has to go to the panel beater, then they'll be paying for that. And again, like, that in and of itself is not the way to solve all problems, but it is one way that you can help to get them slightly more focused on the idea that for them, it's a good reason to pay attention to their driving.
Put it in drive. Just a handbrake down.
But I've probably forgotten all the stuff my dad taught. I've probably picked up my own habits now.
Check your blind spot.
How to park, actually, because if you know how to drive, that's great, but if you can't park, then you can't do anything.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think probably the most important lesson for a new driver is to not get bored with the repetition. So the skill will come with repetition.
Personally, I don't think I'd be rushing out to buy them cars. And there are some young men for whom cars are just the worst things on earth. You know, like the worst thing they ever did was get a car, and certainly get their own car. And it'll be like mobile phones. They'll tell you, oh, I don't want to get a car for me. I want to get a car for you. I'm just worried about all the time that you have to put in driving us around the place, and you just need a rest, and, you know, you've done so much for us over the years. It's time for me to give back now. They'll come up with all these arguments that will all be baloney. It's just, I want to get a car so I can do donuts with my mates. I would think really carefully, personally, about getting them a car. I think because if it's a family car, there's just reduced access because there's more people using it, and there's more leeway for you to kind of supervise them doing that stuff. Some of them just expect it. They just think, right, I'll get a car because I've got my restricted woohee. No, you won't, you monkey.
Getting your teenager their own car reduces the amount of influence and supervision you have over your teen's driving. Also, cars purchased especially for teens tend to be older, smaller, and therefore have fewer of the important safety features. Teens should use the safest car available when they're driving by themselves, since they're most likely to benefit from any extra safety features. Why put them in an unsafe vehicle that could have serious consequences if they crash?
When you're with your teenagers, talking to them about the impact of other teenagers on them and their behaviour is quite important. Like just telling them, look, what science shows is that you by yourself, sensible young man, you and two friends, total idiot. So, When your mate's around, you'll do stuff that you wouldn't normally do. So you've got to be thinking about that. You've got to be thinking about that so that when you're driving your car on your restricted licence and I'm not there, or another licensed driver is there, you don't have friends in the car. You just don't do it. And the reasons that you don't do it are this. You also need to understand that if other people are on a restricted licence, don't get in their car, because it's like getting in the car with a drunk driver. Like, it really is kind of that level of the stupid stuff that they do. And again, if you remember stuff from your adolescence with your friends, I bet you if we went around the room, we'd get some quite outrageous stories. Like, has anyone else ever thought, oh my God, I hope my kids don't do the crazy stuff that I did when I was in the car? Because you think about your driving, and you think you are not getting in the car until you're 30. So for them to understand the impact of peers and to have some really clear rules laid down about that stuff, quite important. How do you say no to your friends? You blame your mum and dad. They will let you do this. You basically say, look, my parents are ogres. They are maniacs. If I let you get in the car, I'll be banned from driving forever. It was up to me, I'd let you do it. They've probably got cameras in the car. They're paranoid freaks. They've got GPS. They're monitoring everything. It's more than my life is worth to let you get in the car. I know. I hate them too. God, there you go. Your mum and dad, I'm guessing here, would gladly let you blame them because it then gives you an out. Plus, you know, put GPS and cameras in the car. You know, employ some big bloke called Brian just to sit in the back seat. How you doing? Who are you? Oh, I was driving ferry.
To sum up, the #1 cause of death for teenagers aged 16 to 19 in New Zealand is road crashes, but there are things you can do to keep your teenage drivers safe. Set up some ground rules right at the outset. Commenting on what they're seeing while driving encourages teenagers to think like an adult driver. If you feel your teen isn't ready to drive, you have the right to say no. Finally, your job doesn't end once your teen has their restricted licence. Aim to give new drivers around 120 hours of supervised driving in a range of conditions.
So that's it in terms of surviving teen driving. Thank you. Good night.